sky's the limit. The truth is on our side. There's no time for worry. Let's show the world our pride. Whether another comes up with a surprise, we all will discover where our fate will lie. On a blue wave, we rise to save the day. Only me, only you can let our hearts sail away on a blue wave.
So today on episode 30 of TruBlu Politics Podcast, we are delighted to be joined by our good friend and proud progressive, kitchen table progressive, Paul Richardson, otherwise known as Paul in Seattle on Progressive Talk Radio. So Paul, thank you for joining us and welcome.
Well, thanks for having me. It's great. Yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah. So, today we want to kind of go over some of the things that we are seeing and hearing some of the reactions to everything that we are seeing play out in our political landscape with the complete fascist takeover of our federal government by Donald Trump, who I like to call convicted felon 47, and Elon Musk and his band of hacker idiots. So, what are you feeling about all this, Paul?
Well, probably mostly like everyone else. It's outrageous. What I think is that it kind of underlines that our Constitution it kind of reduces it to, it's like the rules to a board game where you can just toss them out if you don't like it. You can I kind of when I was little and you're playing Monopoly or whatever, and when I was a little kid, I would just, if you realize you're losing and you just go, just throw the board on the floor and the game is over. I don't have to play. And, you wonder, is the Constitution worth the paper it's printed on? Because everything that he's doing is unconstitutional. And yet, the wheels of government turn so slowly, but they are raiding, they're raiding the Treasury. This is a heist at top speed. So it's just yeah, it is. It's a heist. He's a looter. I've always said that Donald Trump is a political looter. He creates chaos. He creates a riot so that he can loot. That's his, and he gets his followers, in on the riot, so that he can. He's a looter. That's what he does. That's his main thing, is to just raid, and it's taking, it's a breakneck pace of lawlessness, and it's a heist, and there seems to be the courts the courts are slow. You have to this Constitution is not prepared for this, and it's kind of like the Constitution it works when everybody plays nice in the sandbox.
Yes.
And the Republicans don't.
Yep. Yeah, and that seems to be the way things have been going for quite a while, and it's sometimes I find myself wondering, why didn't this happen sooner? Like how was it that it didn't happen sooner? It was kind of the way I felt on 9/11. I was like, it's so diabolical, and it was just like to see how easy it was to carry that attack out. And now I'm feeling the same way about what we're witnessing in plain view by Donald Trump, Elon Musk, but really the entire Republican Party, right?
Okay, you said why it didn't happen sooner, and I'm thinking, I thought you meant in a context, a political context, and that is a striking underline, because we have had some real Lulus in office before, and I mean, you think about, when you look at this now, I mean, okay, so you look at Watergate and think that was like a parking infraction compared to, you know, and yet even Nixon, who had, you know, delusions of grandeur and a lot of, he wouldn't go this far. All he did was participate in the cover-up of a break-in that he didn't order. He only found out about it, and he went, "Uh-oh," and participated in the cover-up. He didn't order the break-in, and yet, you know, this is just.
Well, he did tinker with ignoring judicial decisions.
Yeah, oh yeah,
He did use the FBI. He tried to weaponize the FBI, but Donald Trump did all that in no time. I mean, he's done that over and over again.
Yeah.
Yeah, but see, Nixon was checked on that, and in fact, what we're seeing, what Trump is doing, is a violation of the 1974, the Congressional Budget and Impoundment Act. That's where Nixon tried to not spend money that Congress allocated.
That's what yes.
Yeah, and then
the different. Oh, go ahead.
And then this was before the law was written, but then Congress took him to court, and the courts ruled that no, you cannot impound the money that Congress allocates and not spend it. You have to spend it. And then Congress wrote the Congressional Budget and Impoundment Act in July, and Nixon signed it in July of 1974, just 3 weeks before he resigned.
But what was the difference? You know, I can tell you the difference was that right now they know that, because the Republicans, my argument is that the Republicans have always been this evil. I mean, they've always been this. They've never supported democracy. And so when in 1974, who was in the Supreme Court? The Supreme Court was run by who was this Chief Justice in 1974? Was it Warren Berk? Yes. Yeah. But they'd already proved that they were not going to go along with him.
Yeah.
And so not only that, but the Democrats were in the majority in both the House and the Senate.
Yes.
So he couldn't get away with that. The things that Donald Trump is getting away with. I just wonder how far he would have gone if he had the same kind of situation that Donald Trump is in right now.
Well, but then you got to look at, okay, so when Nixon was facing impeachment over Watergate, it was the Republican senators, was Barry Goldwater told him, you better leave or you're going to be impeached and removed.
But Barry Goldwater said that because he knew that the Democrats were going to impeach him. They were going to force him out. That was
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least.
So do you think that if we had if the Republican Party was like the Republican Party back with Nixon, that we would be in a different spot right now?
I think if the Republican Party were in the majority in 1974, and if the conservatives in this type of conservative, because the Supreme Court, even the conservatives majority has, I mean, the conservative majority in the Supreme Court right now are just off the charts right wingers. They're out of their mind. And I think if we had the Supreme Court, yes, I don't think that. I think it would have been a totally different outcome.
Well, I also think that if we had, if it wasn't the MAGA movement in Congress, I think that Trump, we had a similar type of conservative Republican Party as in the 70s. I don't think Trump would have survived that second impeachment. I think he would have been convicted in the Senate. I mean, there were 57 votes. We needed 67. I think there would have been more Republicans that would have joined in, because once you get 7, I mean, there was 50. See how many senators there was? Oh yeah, there was only 51. So there's six Republican senators joined in then to vote to convict, and that was the last one after January 6th.
Right.
Yeah, they would have. I think once you get enough, then once you start to get a bipartisan, then I think there would have been more Republicans of the 70s era that would have joined in. Okay, so when Clinton was impeached, the vote in the Senate was straight down party lines. It was 55 to 45.
It was,
and the Republicans had 55. Nobody on either side moved. They
In the Senate.
yes. Well, that's what you need.
Yeah. No, I meant, but the impeachment itself in the House, there were some Republicans that did not vote to impeach. What was his name? That King from New York. He didn't vote to impeach. There was a couple of them that didn't vote to impeach. It was not down party lines in the House. So I remember that. You can look it up. I'm pretty sure.
Well, it must have been a very slim majority then, because
they had the majority. Remember, they had a big majority.
They did. Oh, yeah, that's right. They did. After the impeachment in '96, the election, they were in process of impeaching Clinton, and they actually lost 5 seats they still had the majority. They lost 5 seats in the House. They actually they lost seats and gained seats in the Senate, but they maintained a 55-45 majority. And the conviction in the Senate, the hearing in the Senate, the trial in the Senate, I should say, came, I think, in January or February of '97, and that went straight along party lines. Yeah.
Yeah, it was during a midterm, and the Republicans expected to pick up a lot of seats, and
they lost 5.
They actually lost seats.
Yeah,
it was like a bogus impeachment wasn't popular or something.
Well, it was like payback. The Republican parties always wanted payback for what we did to Richard Nixon.
Yeah.
So they were going after Bill Clinton. And Bill Clinton was more and more popular the more they went after him. So that's why the midterms were a loss for them.
Yeah, I think that the train wreck that Trump has been for them, they would have taken the opportunity to put a stop to it in that second impeachment. He probably would have saved the first.
Oh, yes.
He probably survived the first impeachment, but the second one after January 6th, that was so evident that
it was the first time was a bipartisan vote in the Senate to convict.
Yeah, I think
so. Even the first one.
Yeah.
So there's some Republicans that are. Mitt Romney was one, of course, but he's not in the Senate anymore.
Right. Well, what do you think about this latest confirmation of Kash Patel, where they were able to peel off 2 Republicans to vote against him? And because, of course, we're hearing reports of these town halls that are happening. And I know Lisa Murkowski faced her constituents in a town hall. And so that, apparently she was agreeing with her constituents. And so she ended up voting no against Kash Patel. But where was Mitch McConnell? Because Mitch McConnell is out there, he's leaving and he's talking about how, of course, I mean, not that this is a surprising thing, but he's talking out both sides of his mouth. So now he's talking about, but then he goes and he votes yes for Kash Patel. What the fuck is that?
Did you hear what Mitch McConnell said about that? He said,
yeah.
Yeah.
And then he froze.
He said it out both sides.
And then he picked up a piece of lettuce and he went back into his hole.
Yeah. I don't know Mitch McConnell, but he did vote against Pete Hegseth, didn't he? I think it was.
No, he voted against Bobby Kennedy. Because of polio, because he's had polio.
Right.
Oh, that's right. And then
they always have to be directly affected by it. See, Republicans do not stand up for anything unless they're directly affected by it.
Yeah, well, J.D. Vance broke the tie in that one, right? He had to do one tiebreaker. So it was that nutcase.
Yeah, I mean, these people, it's a shit show. It's a circus. And I was just watching, I've had it. I don't know if you guys ever watched them. Those 2 women, they were on The View, and they were going through Kristi Noem. And I don't know if you've ever seen her little cosplay thing she does. And she does a photo shoot with each one. She has dressed up as a dental hygienist, a plumber, a cowboy.
She likes to play dress up. She likes role playing.
Yeah, she likes role playing. She did this ad for Jobs or something, and she's dressed as a dental hygienist. I'm not kidding. It's like I don't know what she, I mean, this is a joke to them.
Weird.
Yeah.
How
Yeah,
weird.
it's
It
more
is
than, yeah, it's
weird.
weird. It's very
Yeah.
weird. But it's
Yeah.
a joke. This is what they think this is. This is like cosplay.
Yeah.
They're all Donald Trump is cosplaying president,
Mm-hmm.
Bobby
It's
Kennedy,
political
and
theater.
all of them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, and this has been happening with the Republican Party since Ronald Reagan.
Yeah. They're not
And-
serious. They're complete. Yeah.
And
You're gonna
Donald
dress
Trump
up-
is, yeah, go ahead.
She's gonna dress up like a cop, and then of course she'll have
Well, she did that.
leather
She did
pants
that.
and-
She went on
with leather
she went
pants
on-
and stuff like that.
Yeah, she went
Yeah,
on
I'm sure
ice
she-
raids. No,
Oh yeah, the ice raid. Yeah, she wore a cowboy hat, I think, or
she
I don't
looked like
remember.
one of the Real Housewives. She was like the Real Housewife, dressed in like a flak jacket.
And what was the song that she came out to on the stage? Oh my God. It was some song about sexy lady
Yeah.
Oh, for Christ.
yeah, she's a joke. They're all a joke. Cash Patel is a dangerous joke. They're all
Yeah.
dangerous.
Yeah.
But Cash Patel especially. And so when I saw that he had been, the vote had gone his way in the Senate, it's such a disappointment that not one of the Republicans, they all know he's dangerous.
Yeah.
They all know he's not qualified. I don't know if any of you watched the hearings with him. He is a liar. He's arrogant. He wrote a book where he has a hit list, an enemies list.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, what do you think about? I mean, what I've been hearing is people being really angry that the Democrats haven't all unified together and voted against all of them.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's going to change. I think that's changed. Karen, you were just talking about that with Keem Jeffries, right? Were you guys discussing that?
Yeah, yeah. So, we were talking about it. And I think that, it's, so I went to an event last night at the Studebaker Theater at the Fine Arts Theater. And he was there, and he was, actually, the moderator was from WBEZ, which is our local national public radio. So Mary Dixon, and she had a bunch of questions from members of the audience that she read to him. And the questions were not easy, and they were also kind of providing some real talk to him and very pushback, and similar to what we've all been frustrated and about and asking for. And everything that he said, it sounds like it's starting to get to them. Like he spoke about how they have a rapid response team now that they put in place. I think that they could use voices like Jasmine Crockett and AOC in the rapid response.
Maxwell Frost.
I mean, they do have, I think they have Neguse. Yeah, they have Neguse and a few other people. Jamie Raskin's a part of it. He's a co-chair. But
Dan Goldman. I have a little soft spot for Dan.
Right. Yeah. A little bit of a crush.
Yeah. Well, he's not Sheldon Whitehouse, but
No, he's no Sheldon Whitehouse.
he's not Sheldon Whitehouse.
Yeah. But anyway, but he, he was talking about, and he said, we have to go to where our voters are having the conversations. And so last week he had indicated that he had been on two alternative independent media sources. So he went on Midas Touch and he went on Roland Martin. And it was really good. And Roland Martin was not easy on him. And he said some of the same things that this moderator was saying, in these questions that were being asked. And, people were saying, look, what do you say to people that are out here scared? What do you say to people, progressives, who are now going out and getting gun cards and thinking about getting guns because they are that afraid of what is going on, what they're witnessing with this complete power grab? And, he spoke to it in like, you could see that he kind of like, it hit him, just like having that articulated to him in that way.
But he's not naturally like that. He is not naturally, his default is, to reach out to the other side, to try to look for common ground. That is who he is. He comes from the Nancy Pelosi school of speakers. But the thing is, Nancy Pelosi learned real quick that you can't do that with Donald Trump and these Republicans.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
so
took a
so I
while.
think, yeah, I mean, so don't, Anita, I think it kind of goes into that, what we were talking about earlier about, this whole dynamic between Republicans, their voters, the right-wing media, and then the role that we play as Democrats in our Democratic leadership. So, we were talking about it, where, likening the billionaires. So the billionaires are the cartel. The Republican Party are the suppliers of the drug, of grievance and hate and just, anger by these people. And so the Republican Party are the suppliers of that drug, and then the right wing media are the pushers, and then the Republican base, they're the addicts that keep needing more and more of that drug to make them feel better about themselves. And then the role, right, Anita, the role that the Democratic Party plays, codependents and enablers, so that, the voters keep buying that drug. And then as long as the Democratic Party is codependent and enabling it to continue, like saving them from themselves, right? So anytime the Republican Party completely, shits all over everything and makes everything exponentially worse, right? The
Yes.
Democrats will
Well,
reach across the aisle to help them, save them from themselves
well,
and
what
their
happens?
voters.
Okay.
Right.
What I was talking about as being enablers is every time Republicans shit the bed. That's the only time people vote for Democrats, honestly, because Republicans, time after time, every time they get power, they completely fuck this country up. They fuck up the economy. They fuck up healthcare. They fuck up everything. They go to wars that are stupid wars, and we constantly, the Democratic Party has been bailing them out because we care about what happens to this country. We care about who this hurts. But the problem is we just keep doing this and they are never going to learn. So my theory and our theory is that they have to hit rock bottom. We have to just let this play out to a certain extent. I'm not saying that we shouldn't stop them from doing some of the worst things that would have a long-term, long-lasting detrimental effect. But they have to feel the pain.
Right.
They have
to hit
feel the
rock
pain.
bottom.
They have to hit rock bottom. They have to feel the pain, or this is just going to continue. This cycle is going to continue. They go into rehab, right? The Democrats take power, so they're in rehab, and they're talking. They're doing their little, we need to do this better. We need to reach out to Hispanics or whatever, and then they make the same mistakes, only worse. Because guess what? Now they need a stronger drug. The people that vote for them need something stronger.
I mean, the thing is that one of the things about an enabler is that the enabler doesn't want the addict to hit rock bottom because that brings everybody down. I mean, that's like the family hits rock bottom if the addict hits rock bottom.
Well, and that's where the codependency comes into play.
Yeah.
Right.
And this is sort of the necessary but yeah, this is what they do. And this happened here in Washington State. There was and I don't know what the status is of it now. I suspect it's the same, but there was a Washington State Supreme Court decision. It's known as the McCleary decision. And the court ruled that the legislature is not spending enough money on education. So it ruled that the legislature had to spend more money on education. And I can't make sense, and I don't remember, but there was a penalty associated with every day that the legislature lets this go. There was some kind of penalty associated with it. But so I was at a meeting, and my representative in the legislature was there, and what they did was because Eastern Washington that's all Republican. Well, because the Republicans didn't want to raise taxes on their constituents to meet the court order to fund education. The Democrats in the legislature agreed that, as a matter of fact, here where I live, that this area, we would pay more taxes in order to pay for
their schools.
These rural school districts. And I just was, what the hell? Why did you do that? And he said to me, well, what else were we going to do? They weren't going to budge.
No, this is what we always do.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yes.
It's like we had to, that was the only way to solve the problem. And
Right.
so
So
that-
we enable it for them to continue down the same cycle, the same path.
They keep thinking there is there's no repercussions.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and there weren't in this case.
Right.
Yeah, and Anita, you know, our last episode, we played, you know, some of these FAFO people, and there was that principal in Kentucky.
Oh, yeah.
They get a third of their funding comes from the federal government.
And she,
go ahead.
She is a principal in a school in, I think it was Kentucky, Appalachia.
Yeah.
Okay. So these are poor white kids. And in this county, I think they voted 83% for Donald Trump. She voted for Donald Trump. And she proudly says she voted for Donald Trump. And she's very upset that they may get rid of the Department of Education, which would cut off all her funding from the federal government. Right. And she sat there, and they show her at this assembly telling these kids, I love you, I care about you, and I got your back. Well, she doesn't have their back because she voted for Donald Trump. And as a principal of a school district in Appalachia, you'd have thought she'd have looked at what his policies were for education. But what she was thinking was, oh, that's fine. That's for them. You know, we're going to be okay, us white folk. I mean, honestly, that's what these people think. They think it's about him hurting them, the brown, the black people, the Democrat people. Because when they talk about Democrats, they're mostly talking about black people.
Yeah.
Right. Because they've been getting high on the supply.
Yes.
And they have these people, exactly. So they keep, the pushers, the Fox News pushers have been pushing this narrative on them that it's the big government. It's,
it's those people who are living the hog off of government. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So this is why you're having a hard time, because this big government is taking our money, and then they're going ahead and they're subsidizing those people, right?
So your problem is government. I mean, that's the Ronald Reagan era, government is the problem.
Government is the problem. And we were talking about that. It started him, even with the young bucks and the welfare queens, them people. Those are the people that are taking your money. Those are the people that government, because it wasn't like that with the New Deal. And white people voted for the New Deal. They voted for FDR over and over again. As soon as the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Acts were passed, those white people stopped voting for Democrats.
Yeah. Remember Ronald Reagan said that when he was standing in the grocery line, sure he was, behind a young strapping buck, who was buying beer and steak with stamps. We're like, no, you can't buy beer. No. And the other thing is, why shouldn't you be able to buy steak? I mean, you can buy a steak and cut it up and make a great meal for the whole family. You don't have to sit there and eat it people. You shouldn't be able to do that.
No, but that's not the point. They don't want those people living well. They don't want them buying their kids, as my mom would say, fudgicles or popsicles or something like that. Right. They think they want them to suffer.
Yep.
Right. And yet it's the farmers are totally against that.
Of course, because they benefit from food stamps.
The food producers want everybody to be able to buy whatever they want.
Yeah, right. Because they get contracts for that. That's why these cuts are hurting farmers most.
Yep. And so then it kind of comes back to that whole, then what is the role of the Democrats? Okay, so now these people are starting to find out what government quietly affecting their lives, either directly or indirectly, the consequences when that goes away. right? So now they're starting to figure it out. But if the Democrats come in and swoop in and try and soften the blow or alleviate that pain, right?
No, they can't.
You know, they
Yes.
can't, you know what I mean? Like they
Yes.
have to have their hands clean. And this is the perfect opportunity.
Yeah.
Because all they have to say is this: Republicans have the majority. They have everything right now.
Yeah.
So
But
everything, we're not going along to get along. Let this stuff happen so that these voters, and they can message on it. They can go and say, this is happening because 100% because of Republicans and their
yes,
leadership.
but I think they need to message on what else they're doing, which is really basically they're doing all this so they can give the billionaire class and the multinational
Yes.
corporations a big fat tax cut again.
Yep.
And that's in combination with that, what they're
Right.
going to be doing to the economy, which is running it into the ground and hurting people. Right. People are going to lose their jobs. I can't wait till, the job numbers come out in the first week of February. I mean, I can't even imagine what they're going to be like. And
oh my God. Yeah. Because this latest one that came out, I guess it was just kind of mild, effect on the jobs, but that's because they didn't get the federal, all these jobs that have just been,
Donald Trump was only in for 10 days and it was still a bad job number.
Yeah.
Because he started right away. Mm-hmm. I mean, his poll numbers have already gone down. He's only been in office a month. It's hard to believe, guys.
I know.
Right?
It's shocking.
Well, it's unsustainable. But the thing is about Democratic messaging is that it's easy to say the Republican strategy is to put public monies in private hands. That's what they've been doing. That's how rich people get rich. Yeah. And that's an easy. You see, you have to have started saying that a long time ago to repeat it enough times that people start to get it, right?
Yes.
And they don't say that. They're just too even-handed about, well, it kind of reminds me of, like Robert Frost, the poet, once said that a liberal is a person who's so even-handed they can't take their own side in an argument, So, I mean, it's like.
It is true. It drives me crazy. That's one of the things. They qualify everything they say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Even if they're trying to, they can't brag about a good economy like under Biden, which was a great economy, by the way, because they had to make sure, or under Obama, because they had to make sure that they were saying, well, there's still some people suffering.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
they don't want to, oh, well, yeah, that's not great for everybody.
Yeah.
They don't want to leave anybody out. And that's just a terrible mistake. It's
a terrible messaging. It really is.
Yeah.
And, and then you look at, I think, for instance, like when Tom Hartman has Mark Pocan on, I said to Mark Pocan one time that, the number one thing that we need to do in the new Congress is impeach Clarence Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
His response was, well, we don't know whether we're going to have a majority in the House.
Oh, Jesus.
It was just like,
oh, nice defeatist attitude.
I know.
I don't know. I mean, if we...
Yeah, we don't know. It might upset them, and then they'll try to impeach one of ours or whatever. Christ. Yeah.
And then,
that calculus has got to go away.
We don't want to go down that road.
What do you think about what The Intercept said? The Intercept said to, and I think they should take it one step further, because what they're saying is Democrats need to introduce a bill to completely defund Elon Musk. In other words, take away his government subsidies.
Yeah.
Because it's definitely a conflict of interest anyway.
Yeah.
And I think they should use it for leverage on the debt ceiling.
I agree.
Because you know what? If they default on the debt under Trump, I mean, it's a terrible thing, but my God, look at the road we're going down.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I think the Democrats, in terms of the debt ceiling that's coming up, Democrats should say, no deals, we're not helping you. And that's like we said, that's part of the, codependence is Democrats voted, they passed those last debt ceiling, when the Republicans have had the majority.
They bailed them out.
Yeah.
Bailed them out.
That's the fuck around and find out.
Oh, because it's just so hurtful. It just hurts the American people too much. Okay.
Yeah. We have to pay our bills. Yeah.
And the American people never turn around and thank the Democrats. But
No.
Oh, hell no. They
Yeah.
they stab them in the back. It doesn't matter
No,
because
2010. Look what happened in 2010. You
look
know,
what happened in
everybody pumps out
2024.
exactly.
well, like I said, I think the Democrats should say no deals
Yeah.
until Elon Musk is fired and
Yes.
until Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt graduates from high school. So
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, her husband is 60 years old. She's 27.
Oh my
I am
God.
not kidding.
that
Yeah.
is just
That's
wrong.
yeah, I know.
So just to kind of, so tell me what you think about this. So this is according to Hazelden Betty Ford Foundation. The concept of codependency and enabling sounds simple and straightforward. Doing for a loved one what they can and should do for themselves, but it can be incredibly difficult to tell the difference between supporting and enabling a loved one. So what's the difference? After all, enablers want to help their loved one too, and codependency might feel like healthy support. But enabling allows the status quo, drinking or using drugs to continue, whereas healthy support encourages a person to address their addiction and all of its consequences. So yeah, by not enabling them,
Not,
not
bailing them
softening the
out.
blow,
Not
let
bail-
them hit bottom, exert tough love, and
I
because
say
that's the way they can connect the dots. That's the only way they're going to be able
It's
to
the only
connect the
way.
dots.
They have to feel it. No, let me just say something else. If they use the leverage of the debt ceiling, they have to be willing to follow through.
Yes,
You cannot, if they're, you can tell if they're not willing to follow through. These Republicans
That's right.
will smell that.
that's right.
So they have to be willing to. It's just like when you tell an addict, if you don't straighten up, I'm going to leave, and then you
Yeah.
don't.
Right.
They just continue to test you. Yeah.
Yep. It's like telling a toddler, if you keep wiping boogers on the Resolute desk, we're out
Yeah.
of here.
No,
And then you
that's
don't
right.
take them.
You keep telling the president to hush. You're not the president. Go away.
Go away. That's it. We're out of here.
Yes, that's right. I
Did
don't know
you
about
hear
that.
that?
No, I think I would say, hey,
Yeah.
Billy, you know what? I like how you tell the president to hush and wipe boogers on his desk. If you keep doing that, you'll get a candy bar every
That's
day.
true. That's true for you here every day.
Yeah.
You could be in Congress, or how about the Senate?
You could be the president and tell him to go.
And here, I'm going to give you a bunch of baby carrots, and you can hold them up and make them feel inadequate.
Yeah. Say,
We would-
and then you can tell him, you hush, I'm the president.
And you would do a better job, Billy. I'm
Yeah.
telling you. You both wear diapers.
Yeah.
Well, Billy's probably out of diapers.
Yeah, he's probably out of his pull-ups.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. That was hilarious.
Oh my,
But yeah.
I mean, I have to say, like a lot of people were like, oh, stop, like, using this kid. This kid is being, victimized and it's like, well, take it up with
Exploited.
Elon.
Yeah.
Take it up with Elon Musk, his dad, who's exploiting him and or using him as a human shield. I don't know.
His mother didn't know.
No.
The mother that, who has custody of him was saying she didn't know that he was going to be, with him in the White House during a press conference. So she was pretty upset about it, but Elon Musk doesn't care.
No.
His kid is just there to, as a prop.
Right. Yeah. So we do, I was going to, if you guys are ready to move into the, here, hold on one second.
No, I want to talk about some of the things that are going on right now that are pretty hopeful.
Yes.
Like these town halls that have not been going well for Republicans.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you want to talk about?
That is. Oh my gosh, it's like
I know, it's weird.
Podcast partners
I know.
for a long time. And we can read each other. So yeah. So I wanted to actually play this if I can get there.
And a man has declared himself our king. So I would like to know, rather, the people would like to know what you, congressmen, and your fellow congressmen are going to do to rein in the megalomaniac in the White House.
they're all standing.
Yeah. Plus 30 Republican districts.
When you talk about tyranny, when you talk about presidential power, I remember having the same discussion with Republicans when Biden was elected. The funny thing is, you're sitting here and a lot of you would probably say those January 6s who are yelling just as loud as you, who are upset just like you.
Oh my God.
Wait.
And not listening.
Hey, let's restore some order. Let's restore some order. Hey, let's restore some order.
So
Stop
yelling at me is not going to get any answer, okay? I don't think executive privilege should be as strong as it is. I think we're out of balance right now. I think your direct representation, whether you like me or not, I'm the closest thing you have to a representative. Your senator's not going to be as representative as me, and the president's not going to be as representative as me when it comes to you, the people in this district. Likewise, I think state government needs to be more powerful than federal government. It used to be that federal funds only made up 1/3 of the money spent, and states was 2/3. It's more representative of your money and your money spent. That's better. Always push government down to the local level because you'll get better representation. I don't want to see the president make all the decisions. I don't. I didn't want to see. Do you not want to hear that I just said, I answered it directly. I said, I don't want to see any president be too powerful.
This reminds me of 2010, only the Tea Party. The way they would scream at everybody during the healthcare debate, remember? Now, those were not grassroots, okay? Those were astroturfed. Because a lot of those we found out were Republican operatives that were speaking out like that. Right. These are actual grassroots efforts. People really are scared and angry. And and when he says that, first of all, how rude and obnoxious. And to bring up January 6th.
Thank you. What a fucking insult. How disrespectful.
Seriously.
Are you fucking kidding? They're over there. They're having a town hall and they're asking him questions. That's right.
They have a right to do that. They are petitioning their government. Those people were violent. They would not have done anything wrong if they had just petitioned their government, have gone there and had a protest. But no, they broke into the Capitol, screaming, "Hang Mike Pence," beating up cops, using weapons, bashing people over the head with flagpoles and tasers, and some of them had guns, and some people died. This was to compare it to that is just so offensive.
I know. And this is the thing. It's just like you would think any rational human being, any that isn't a total fucking psychopath or sociopath, would sit there and listen to what his constituents are saying, not sit there and insult them and double down,
argue with them,
and try and gaslight them with this bullshit about Joe Biden. Fuck off. Are you
state
kidding
versus
me?
federal. Yeah.
You
know what?
Give me a break.
He never answered the question. What are you doing to rein him in? I don't care whether you think the federal government should have more influence or more power now. What are you? In other words,
if you believe that, why aren't you reining him in?
Why aren't you reining him in? I mean, you're my most direct representative. Yeah, and he has to. Every time you talk to Republicans, whether you call their office or whatever, it's all defensiveness. And I actually yesterday I called the Republican who's represents my old district in Michigan when I was living with my mom, because I still have a Michigan phone number, but I wanted to harass his ass.
Yeah.
So
I do that.
I called him and said, I just want to remind you, my message for Tom Barrett is this, that the Congress may not abdicate its powers to the executive, and the executive sure as hell cannot take those powers and delegate them to somebody else. If Congress can't delegate powers, and that's why we're supposed to be getting rid of all these administrative agencies, then the executive sure as hell cannot delegate congressional powers. So, what are you doing? He says, well, I would encourage you to read the congressman's newsletter. He's doing a lot in Congress too. And it's always these bills that he is passing. Says he's passing two bills for the VA to one of them was to so that the VA can pay for more adaptive accommodations for vehicles for veterans who are disabled. And I said, how is that different than what's already authorized in the 1973 Rehab Act? Well, I don't know about that. He said, but the VA has been restricted. I said, well, that's no more restricted than any other part of the federal government. That's what the 1973 Rehab Act did. And and so this, I was talking, or I sent this an email to some other people who are in Michigan, and they said, yep, that's what he's doing. Just like he's supported a bill to prohibit fracking, on saying that the federal government cannot interfere with prohibiting fracking on state and private lands. It's like they can't already, right? So what he's doing in Congress is this kind of redundant.
Well, that's what they do. That's what they do. They never like when they do this thing about passing a law that says that non-citizens can't vote.
Right. Exactly. They can't already. Right.
Yeah.
We couldn't do this without our loyal listeners and love hearing from you. So please, please give us some stars and a review if you are so inclined wherever you get this podcast. I know that we are all feeling the pain of this second felon 47 occupation. But Anita and I really, really understand the assignment, and we want to be here for all of you, our loyal listeners. And without you, we couldn't make this happen. We could not keep this running. TruBlu Politics is sponsored by, of course, our wonderful TruBlu crew of listeners and our supporters on Patreon. As a small startup podcast, our Patreon members help us pay the bills to keep our podcast running and also allow us to keep investing in equipment upgrades for even better quality content in the future. I know that we all have our day jobs. I know I have a day job, and, you know, that requires a lot of my time, but I want to be able to devote as much time to having these conversations, getting the word out, fighting the good fight against tyranny. You know, so much of this is reliant on our community of progressives and road warriors. So when you sign up as a monthly TruBlu crew member on Patreon at even just $5, you instantly unlock our private TruBlu pod chat and full episodes a day earlier than everyone else without ads in the middle. Upwards from there, we've made even more perks available, like a personal Zoom call with me and Anita to discuss ways to overthrow convicted criminal felon 47, Elon motherfucking Musk, and the GOP. If you could please become a Patreon subscriber at any level, go to patreon.com/TruBlu, that's TruBlu Politics Podcast. Again, we could not do any of this without you guys. It is because of you that Anita and I can draw hope for the future of our democracy, hope for our community, hope for our children, hope for our grandchildren. We need to be together. We need to know that there are going to be able to be voices out there that are going to keep speaking truth to power. And in our small little way, Anita and I hope that you know how much we appreciate you guys. So let's keep fighting. Keep calling our representatives. Keep getting out on the streets. Take a step away when you need to, but come back into the fight. And please, please consider supporting our little podcast. We love you guys. Stay strong and stay in the fight.
Speaking of stupid, you know, they're doing useless things. Donald Trump, when they asked him, what did they ask about Ukraine? I guess it was on Air Force One. Yeah. What did he say? Oh, I'm going to Fort Knox to look at the gold, to make sure the gold's still there.
Oh.
That's what he's going to do. And then he started bragging about his ballroom, his gold-plated ballroom. Well, people are talking about barely making it, barely able to afford egg prices, and people are losing their jobs, which, being laid off all over the country, which they don't seem to even care one iota about these people losing their jobs.
Yeah.
And what's going to happen to them? I know in Virginia, what's his name? Youngkin. He's like telling them they're setting up a package, like a care package for people who lost their job in Virginia. But it's right what they're doing, what Elon Musk is doing. It's necessary.
Right. Well, and unfortunately, there are people out there that are like, look at look at all of the abuse, the fraud, all of the money that they're finding, and it's like, they fired the IGs. That literally that was their job.
That was their job to find ways fraud and abuse. And by the way, honestly, look at the polling on it. People do not want to hear that. They do not believe that they're saving all these millions of dollars of money, because all they feel is the pain from it. And all they're doing is hearing these local news stories about people being laid off in their town and how prices are going up.
Yeah, but isn't it patriotic? Isn't it patriotic to pay
more for eggs? Yeah, that's what I'm hearing.
It's uniquely American.
It's it's patriotic now. Before it was like the worst thing that ever happened. Yeah,
right. It's patriotic to pay more. Yeah.
Yeah. So that just shows you how much they really cared about how much eggs.
Well, all they do, they're just defensive, and that's going to come down on them. What was Rachel talking about last night? Trump's approval rating is the worst since in the honeymoon period of the first just elected president, the worst in 72 years.
No, really, since they've been polling it. So maybe probably the worst ever.
Yeah. Well, since, And then, and they asked, who would you want to be in charge of Congress? By 13-point swing was Democrats. So the Republicans, all they are is defensive, yet they don't want to stand up to Trump, and they're going to go down swing, and he's destroying them.
Oh, he will destroy them. But you know what? They won't learn, because when they impeached Bill Clinton, and everybody, Bill Clinton's approval ratings kept going up, up, up. But what did they do? They just kept doubling down and doubling down. They do not learn, because they don't care about democracy. They don't care what people want.
I think that, I think about it, is that maybe another comparison, another analogy is not so much addiction, but it's a fetish. They have a fetish. They cannot, a fetish is anything that they're not just sexuals. The fetish is anything that you require a certain ritual or a certain thing before you can achieve emotional gratification. So commonly, that's sexual, but I've heard it discussed in terms of like, extremist religious practices. That's right. William Shakespeare was talking about that in his book that he wrote in 1905, whatever. It was called The Varieties of Religious Experiences as Religious Fetishes. And this is what they are into, is that they have to get anger can be a fetish. That's what gets them satisfaction.
Oh, they get off on triggering libs. But the reason why we say it's an addiction, it's not really about the addiction. It's about our reaction to that addiction or to that fetish. Yeah. Which is we are enabling it. Yes. We continue to allow them to get away with this, and they will never learn until they actually feel it. That we know that that's the case. Republicans do not care unless it's about them, unless it affects them. You see these people who are talking about, remember, who was it that read that post, Roland Martin, or something said, I love the pain, but that you're causing, or that Elon Musk is causing, but my stepfather, he's a veteran, and I really don't want him to have to wait too long, at the VA. So could you please give, them that VA an exemption?
Mm-hmm.
He actually said that. He posted that.
Right.
This is how they are. They don't care. It's like even the mothers who are over there screaming about who voted for Trump, who are screaming about losing their, their SNAP benefits or their, Section 8 subsidies or whatever it is they're getting. They didn't care about what he was going to do to anybody else.
Well, did you hear
Right.
that guy who on Tom Hartman earlier this week? That guy from North Carolina, James, Tom asked him. He says all this waste, fraud, abuse, and Tom said, well, like what? And he says they're sending condoms to Gaza.
Oh God.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was like, what? And Tom is not quick enough to follow up on this stuff, but I would have said, okay, let's say they are. Let's say the federal government sent 100 million condoms to Gaza. And the government could buy condoms for probably a nickel or less. So that would be about $5 million. So $5 million would have gotten you about 15 minutes in Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's all the waste, fraud, and abuse you can think of, maybe there's not as much. And the other thing is, we were talking the other night, is that if there's all this waste, fraud, and abuse, it must be happening under, the Republicans have been in control of Congress the last 2 terms.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
how come they never talked about it until now?
But that's what they do. They don't talk about it until, it's advantageous for them to talk about it.
Yeah.
But it's Gaza, Mozambique, by the way. So they are sending condoms to Gaza to prevent HIV spread.
Yeah. And by the way, that was under George W. Bush.
Right. The PEPFAR.
Started that. His initiatives, which were praised on both sides, to fight AIDS in Africa. That's right.
PEPFAR.
Well, you guys, blah, blah, blah. What I want to know is, are they still eating the dogs and eating the cats in Ohio?
Oh, yeah. What have they done about, what? That's a good thing to call it. One of the Republicans say, what have you done about the
dogs?
Haitians eating dogs and cats?
Hey, look, we're going to be eating dogs and cats in Haiti.
You know what they'd say? They'd say, have you heard of any dogs and cats being eaten lately?
Yeah, I know.
We solved the problem.
Yeah. Well, those people moved, from what I understand, and probably that town is probably going to completely, disappear because of that, economically, because apparently those Haitians were saving that community.
Yeah. Well, they, throughout the Midwest, when I was in Michigan with my mom, I was surprised to find out that, for instance, like Huron County, Michigan, was offering to pay people like $20,000 to move there.
Yeah.
They would give you $20,000 down on a house payment, which is, in Huron, I'm sure you could buy a decent house for $100,000. That's 20% down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a good start to move there.
Yeah.
Because
Huron? Where's that?
In Huron, Michigan, Huron County.
Oh.
Which is it's up towards it's kind of
the UP
towards the thumb, not quite all this way up, but.
What's really upsetting is that those small towns were actually doing really well because of Joe Biden. They were booming. Yeah. A lot of them were booming. And because of, things like what was happening in that town in Ohio, the Haitians. Right. And all the investments that Joe Biden made in these rural areas all over the country, and through the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, and through the infrastructure bill and the CHIPS Act.
Yeah, and all the manufacturing that was going to go on.
It was going on.
Desperately needed it. Yeah.
We saw that what happened with that farmer that went viral, who was complaining because, he was supposed to get $250,000 from the government to buy some stuff for like green agriculture stuff. I'm not really sure how, but I only know it was something to do with green energy. And he was supposed to get this, and he was very excited about it. There are videos of him prior to Trump getting in office where he's talking about how the government was subsidizing. We're going to give him this money to buy all this new equipment and everything. And he was very excited about it. And then, now he's like, they've said they're not sending me the check, and I've already bought all this stuff, and they're not going.
Did he vote for Trump? Did he vote?
He voted for Trump. He voted for Donald Trump.
I mean, I know it's too wonky, and I'm one of the worst offenders, but all of this idea that the federal government is giving this or supporting money it's in the preamble. Fifth clause of the preamble says to promote the general welfare.
Yeah.
And that means that promote means to fund. The federal government cannot make laws of general applications in the states. The MAGAs don't understand any of this crap. And the federal government actually doesn't make criminal laws. I was talking to a guy on one of the talk radio shows here with the right wingers that he said something like, "Wait, are you for murder?" And I'm like, the federal government doesn't have laws against murder. He goes, "Oh, the federal government doesn't have laws against murder." I said, No, they don't. In fact,
civil rights. Yeah.
The federal government doesn't have any laws against murder until 1965. The federal government passed a law that says you can't murder the president.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Well, they also
fuck. Yeah. And
Byrne and I have fun with that one, but go ahead.
Again, in 1968, they passed a law that says you can't murder members of Congress. Oh, fuck! I know.
Yeah.
You can't murder officials in the federal government. That they cannot. This guy didn't know this because.
Oh my God, that's true. Because John F. Kennedy, when he was assassinated, they didn't know what to do. Remember, they didn't know whether to allow that jurisdiction, or who had the jurisdiction.
Well, they did. There was no other. That's murder is state law. 90% of criminal law is in the states, and so
right. I know, but they didn't have a law.
I told this guy, and who took custody of Lee Harvey Oswald when President Kennedy was shot? The Dallas County Sheriff's Department.
Well, they were arguing over who was going to take custody of John F. Kennedy.
Yeah, the body. Yeah.
The body.
Yeah, that was probably less clear, but certainly Oswald would be in custody of Dallas.
I know, but the point is they didn't have that law then. You were just saying it didn't until 1965.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's why. Because
So what was the cause of death?
For Kennedy?
Yeah.
brain.
He's still alive.
Brain explosion?
No, he's still alive.
I thought he was going to be
he's still alive. I mean,
Donald Trump's running mate.
That is a total conspiracy theory. John F. Kennedy's been alive and well and 114 years old for 114 years. I mean,
and he's getting Social Security checks.
He's getting Social Security. He has gotten more. Yeah.
He's been voting in every election.
In every election, yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Is
it too soon? No, it's not too soon. Wait.
Next one.
Who was it that was gonna? Who was the one where did I hear this? That somebody's is opening an investigation into the Kennedy.
That's lunatic Luna. No, Luna. Yeah. That Luna lady, she is going, when somebody from the media, the press asked her about her witnesses, which witnesses, she said, I will be calling the attending physicians and the members of the Warren Commission.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
The Warren Commission, you know who the youngest member of the Warren Commission was? Gerald Ford.
He did.
He'd been dead for a while.
He did. Yeah.
So this is the kind of stuff that they're doing. So aren't you guys glad? Isn't that what you voted for?
I thought he was going to put America first.
Yeah, well,
that's what I was voting for. I wasn't voting for my education funding for these little babies that I love, and I got their backs. I thought he was going to put America first.
He wants to put Russia first.
Yeah,
that's really what he wants to do. But go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, here's another thing. That yesterday I surfed right-wing talk radio, and this is what.
I'm sorry.
This is what they're.
That's bad for your mental health.
Man.
Yeah.
It's my job. Anyway, so I flip over to KVI, which is and so this Ari Hoffman, this guy he's just all hyped up. He's like, do you know what our tax dollars are being spent on? A $60,000 grant went to and he starts talking about this adult entertainment place in Seattle, right?
$60,000. That's what he's concerned about.
$60,000 went to an adult, and he says, and what they do in there is so disgusting, I can't even talk about it. Of course you can't, right?
How does he know? Is he like Ed Meese, who has to do an investigation?
I don't know, but he said
he's like Ted Cruz in the Rio Grande.
Ed Cruz.
No, but Ed Meese had a whole. Remember, I don't know if you, Paul, you might know the Meese Commission. Was it the Meese Commission, or where he had to actually investigate all the different like strip bars and
Of course.
porn, and so. Yeah,
I'm going to personally see these.
Yeah, he had to go and see.
It's a hard job, but somebody's got to do it.
And it took a long time, and they were still working on it.
Yeah.
Last I heard.
I need to. I'm almost finished with my investigation, but I've got to go back in. I've got to. I'm just.
And then you see the expenses: martini.
Martini, yeah. Tip. Yeah.
Right. Tip. Yeah. Anyway, so he says. Yeah, this money was funneled through a foundation.
Oh,
what foundation?
And so, in other words, he says, but we don't know where the money went. So, what he even said that. I said, so I called up the show and I said, and the producer was in on this too, talking about it. I said, I got a question about this story. He said, yeah, what? And I said, what was the foundation that received the money, and what was the grant for? He goes, I don't know. And I said, you don't know because you're a fucking liar.
Yeah, they always.
Yeah, yes. I said, you don't know. In other words, and you can't know that the money. I mean, there may be somebody who's on a foundation board or has a foundation who also owns this business.
Yeah.
Okay, so that doesn't mean that the money, because the foundation received the money, that this was funneled here for what? And because when foundations receive grants, they have to show receipts, and it has to be for a certain thing. Mm-hmm. And even if it did go to this place for whatever, it was authorized. It was an authorized study. It was authorized by Congress. Otherwise, they wouldn't have found. It wouldn't be money that went for it. I mean, what did they didn't say, oh, hey, I got the money, and now we're gonna. I thought probably this business is the only business that owns that's making any money, and so.
Yeah, and yet they don't care about the kind of grift that Donald Trump does every day.
Right.
Like, selling those $100,000 watches, or just having the Secret Service have to take, he makes money off U.S. taxpayers.
Yeah.
Every day when he goes to his golf course. He's spending most of 30% of his time since he's been in office has been at his golf course.
Right.
On the golf, playing golf.
Or what about going over to NASCAR and driving laps and
$20 million? Yeah. They don't care about that. Or going to the Super Bowl for
that seems pretty wasteful. Yeah.
Yeah. He doesn't care about that. But the $60,000 at some foundation he can't name.
Well, you have to get people outraged that it's for this disgusting pornography, which about half of of course, the entire audience is white men. So they're like, where's this? Well, I want to go check at that place.
Oh, by the way, white men
what
who
about Stormy Daniels?
Don't have a problem with Trump, raw dogging a porn star. Okay.
Right. And paying her off,
Yes. So I did want to play this. We were talking about it. It was kind of, speaking about, states kind of doing some of the work here, and Democrats speaking truth to power. Our governor here in Illinois, I have
your governor.
Extremely proud of him. So this is JB Pritzker in the State of the State address.
We don't have kings in America, and I don't intend to bend the knee to one. If you think I'm overreacting and sounding the alarm too soon, consider this. It took the Nazis 1 month, 3 weeks, 2 days, 8 hours, and 40 minutes to dismantle a constitutional republic. And all I'm saying is that when the 5-alarm fire starts to burn, every good person better be ready to man a post with a bucket of water if you want to stop it from raging out of control. Those Illinois Nazis did end up holding their march in 1978, just not in Skokie. After all the blowback from the case, they decided to march in Chicago instead. Only 20 of them showed up, but 2,000 people came to counter-protest. The Chicago Tribune reported that day that the rally sputtered to an unspectacular end after 10 minutes. It was Illinoisans who smothered those embers before they could burn into a flame. Tyranny requires your fear and your silence and your compliance. Democracy requires your courage. So gather your justice and humanity, Illinois, and do not let the tragic spirit of despair overcome us when our country needs us the most.
Yeah, that was, that reminds me of, what's his name? Chris, the punter from Minnesota, the Vikings punter. Yeah.
Chris Cluey.
Chris Cluey. Did you see that, Paul? He went to that city council meeting in Huntington Beach, California, which is Republican. And he did a, what do you call that? A civil disobedience. He made a speech about that MAGA thing.
Yeah, and then he got arrested. Yeah.
And he got arrested, and he called them Nazis.
To speak out against both the plaque and the current city council. As the community made clear at the Library Commission meeting last Tuesday, everyone is in favor of a plaque to celebrate the library, but the vast majority are against including a MAGA acrostic. Okay? Unfortunately, it's clear that this council does not listen, so instead I'm going to take my time to say what MAGA has stood for these past 3 weeks. MAGA stands for trying to erase trans people from existence. MAGA stands for resegregation and racism. MAGA stands for censorship and book bans. MAGA stands for firing air traffic controllers while planes are crashing. MAGA stands for firing the people overseeing our nuclear arsenal. MAGA stands for firing military veterans and those serving them at the VA, including canceling research on veteran suicide. MAGA stands for cutting funds to education, including for disabled children. MAGA is profoundly corrupt, unmistakably anti-democracy, and most importantly, MAGA is explicitly a Nazi movement. You may have replaced a swastika with a red hat, but that is what it is. I will now engage in the time-honored American tradition of peaceful civil disobedience.
Get the heck. Get out.
Get out.
Oh,
Get out. Get. God, his wife is lucky. He's just a great, he's just all around,
So they were yelling at him to get out?
The city council, and the cops, I think. The city council, who are Republicans.
Well, it's interesting, like I said, when I was in Michigan, I went to a couple of county commissioner, all Republicans, county commissioner meetings, and I spoke at them. And I think the last one, okay, so the Livingston County, Michigan, they about every 4 years, they first declared that Livingston County was a gun sanctuary county. And then last year, they declared that Livingston County was a constitutional county for law-abiding citizens. This was a double speak for guns, and
they love guns and keep talking about guns.
So then at the beginning of the meeting, one of the commissioners, whatever he said, he said, we will take public comment. And he says, I want to remind you, insults, threats, defamation of the commissioners is not protected speech, and if you engage in that, you will be removed, and you also may face prosecution. Mm-hmm. So when it was my turn, and they said, Paul Richardson, and when it came to me, I said, Mr. Commissioner, I think it's interesting that you start this meeting by reminding us that our First Amendment rights are not unlimited. We are limited in many ways. Our First Amendment rights, our First Amendment free speech rights, but you want to have this meeting to say that our Second Amendment rights are not limited, right? They're not unlimited. Yeah. So I don't know if you really understand the Constitution and what the right says, but I said, I think that's an interesting observation that you correctly point out that our First Amendment rights do not protect threats insults and whatever else. And I said, but you're here to say that our Second Amendment rights are unlimited. That's an interesting conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the only amendment that they, they insist doesn't have any limits to it, because all of our amendments.
That's literally the only thing in the Constitution that they actually believe in, right? I mean, that's
the only thing they know.
They know exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in closing, guys, because we are kind of getting to that point, but so at this gathering that I went to with Hakeem Jeffries, one of the things that he said, and I tend to agree with it, I think that, it's not just one thing that we're going to have to do. It's going to be a multi-pronged approach. It's going to have to be a lot of different players kind of playing their part. And I think, with the Democratic leadership, it is going to be them getting on the same page and messaging in unison and at the volume that is required right now, pushing back and voting no on things. And for
everything.
Our part, everything, exactly. And for our part, it's going to be making phone calls, getting in the streets, protesting, because I do think for me, because some people have, kind of mixed feelings about protest and whether it's effective. For me personally, with everything that we've been seeing with, in Canada and, and across Europe, with us, just having such little, them having such little respect for, the United States right now, and rightfully so, and booing the national anthem. For me, it is a way for all of us to show that we are not on board with this, that this is
well,
not,
how else do they know?
us.
Well, how else does the government know that people are not, to get out there and protest means you are significantly upset about something.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important that people get out. I think it does make a difference. I know, vote, you have to vote. There are even more important things to do. If you don't vote and you go out there and protest, then it's meaningless. Right. But if you're out there protesting, and I suggest for protests that people get other people that are there, make sure they're registered to vote. Even have a table for people to register to vote.
Yes. And that does go on.
Yeah, most of the time I know it does go on. Also, calling your congressmen and your senators is so important. People have talked, if you listen to Rachel Maddow, she talked about, how many phone calls they were getting. They are being inundated with calls from people who are very, very worried and upset, and these do affect them. So it's important whether you have a Republican or a Democratic congressperson or senator that you make those calls. And the phone number is 202-225-3121. Just ask for your senator or your congressman. If you don't know, give them your zip code. And if you can't reach a staff member, just leave a message, because they do have to listen to those messages. I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's an imperative. And Anita is like a professional caller.
I am.
Like if anybody,
Paul, you're good at it too, right? Paul is a professional too.
Yeah, if anybody out there needs help with the script, Anita and Paul can absolutely help you with it. Because Anita, you just called who was it? Ted Cruz's office?
I called Ted Cruz's office about Ukraine. Very upset about him because he says he supports Ukraine, and then I called to tell him, well, why isn't he saying anything? Donald Trump is just, giving Russia everything they want and completely abandoning Ukraine. But that's beside the point. The point is, I called him and let him know how I feel, and they wrote it down. He seemed apologetic, so I think they're embarrassed by it too.
Yeah.
Well, and also that Trump just said that Ukraine started the war.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, Trump said that. Yes. And I've added that. I also said that. And then he sent his Treasury Secretary to tell them, they owe us for the money we sent them, even though we didn't send them money. We sent them, weapons that have already been discontinued so that we could buy more. We also made money. I mean, our weapons industries here actually made money manufacturing those weapons.
Yeah, and I think that try as they might, they're not going to be able to sidestep, and they're not going to be able to talk their way out of this. and gaslight, because people are really paying attention because of the things that they're actually feeling. And so, but the proof in the pudding, of course, is going to be when they start voting against Donald Trump in Congress, when they start, joining Democrats and stopping this shit, right? But I want to ask you, Paul, because, a lot of people, that we listen to, a lot of these shows that we listen to, there'll be callers who call in or email. And, a lot of people are really struggling right now. And I know, we all are feeling it. Is there anything that you're doing to kind of cope with this and work through the grief that you're feeling? Because we all have grief just from life occurrences, but then also to be going through this all together, and it's hard because, like, Anita and I, previously, like during the first time around, when one of us was feeling shitty one day, the other one was there to pick the other one up. But now it feels like we're all collectively going through this. And so is there anything that you're doing or trying to implement in your daily activities that are kind of helping you at all?
I try to get some exercise every day, and
Yeah,
I must say I don't listen to as much.
me neither.
I used to have, WCPT on pretty much all day, every day. I still listen. I can listen more now than I did a few months ago, but I just, it's something where I guess you go through these stages where it's at this point something we're just going to have to deal with. And I think getting active, depression, anxiety, stuff like that, it's part of it is just getting active. And like I said, when I heard that thing on right-wing radio yesterday here in Seattle and called up the station and said, what's the foundation that received this money?
Right.
And
Yeah.
I said, well, I don't know. And I said, you don't know because you're a fucking liar and you're going to get sued.
Good for you.
I said,
Yeah.
you know what? I wish I could represent this adult entertainment, but you have no proof that because some of the foundation, you're making a huge allegation that, and they could suffer violence. Somebody's going to go in there and do something violent. And I said, you are taking a big chance. You're getting,
Right.
KPI radio is going to get their asses sued. You keep this shit up, and you just keep checking them because all of this booing. I mean, these Republican representatives, they're so freaking defensive. That's because it's getting to them.
Oh, right. Yes, it is getting to them. You can tell. You could tell that when Stephen Miller was on CNN and having a fit because he was hysterical because she was pushing back. I can't remember the name of the reporter, not reporter, but pundit.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, you can tell it's getting to them.
Right.
And
There's power in resistance. When you resist and when you push back against this, it does take away some of that powerlessness that we've all been kind of feeling.
And Donald Trump's poll numbers are sinking. He is the least popular president in this time of his presidency.
And they know that. And he's going to get worse. I mean, this chaos.
It's going to get worse. It's just the beginning. This is the honeymoon, guys. I know it's only going to get worse.
Yeah.
So people thought, when he went in that he was going to be able, because I don't know why, but there are people that actually think Donald Trump is good at the economy.
I know.
He put, him being on The Apprentice and, it was all fake, The Apprentice, but he portrayed this as successful businessman and he walks around all confident and he spouts all this stuff very confidently. And now they're saying he's just a bumbling idiot. That's why he's ran every business he's touched into the ground, including his casinos. Because he doesn't know what he's doing.
Exactly. Yeah. It's similar to the Republican Party grift, right? And what did Stuart Stevens say? It was all a lie. So, Anita, what are you doing to kind of cope with all this shit?
I'm trying to think. I'm not really doing anything. I exercise. And that's all. I cannot watch as much. I'm with Paul. I can't pay that much attention. And then I have to kind of actually zone it out for a while and then just get back to it when needed. I mean, because I feel out of control if I don't know what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, so it's important that I know something,
Right.
but I cannot, you know, and also, you know, let me tell you something. Rachel Maddow, she's been pretty inspirational and positive lately.
Yeah.
So I would suggest watching Rachel Maddow if it's really like, you know, you're like, oh my God, everything's so
Yeah.
bad.
She's
Yeah,
she's
no,
on every
yeah.
night again, right? She's on every night.
She's
again.
on every night for the first 100 days.
Yeah.
So she is,
Well,
you know, and she
yeah.
always starts with a positive story and kind of we have to have that positivity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think also just doing what we're doing because that, like I said, that guy who called Tom Hartman earlier in the week, who was from North Carolina, and he was a complete MAGA, and Tom said that you know, they're fixing to cut Social Security and Medicare, and he says he's not gonna do that. And
Oh yeah, he is.
right after that call, the top of the hour news was about how Congress is going to cut.
Oh, and don't you
Yeah.
remember them calling Biden a liar for saying that that's what they wanted to do?
Right.
So
Yeah.
and nobody
and
even
then
brings it
Biden said,
up.
"Oh, okay, then there won't be any cuts." Right, great.
Yeah, he goes, yeah, I love
Yes.
converts. You know, I love
Right.
conversion.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they were
That
full
was
of
a
shit, and
brilliant
of course they
one.
were full of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we should bring that up. We should bring that up more often. That they said, I remember when you got so angry that Biden had said you wanted to cut Social Security. You swore that wasn't true. I remember you
Yeah.
yelling, Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yeah.
I think that another thing to do, I would love to get the message out. I think Democrats should do this. Part of what they should talk about is just start saying Trump isn't the president. J.D. Vance is the president and Musk is his henchman. That will drive Trump fucking crazy.
Well, people have already been saying, you saw that Time cover with Elon Musk sitting on the Resolute desk, behind the Resolute desk.
Yeah.
So, he's afraid of Elon Musk. Because if that had been anybody else, he'd be throwing, because if that had been Steve Bannon, he'd have just gotten rid of him. But he's
Can you
afraid.
imagine if Steve Bannon, I don't know if he has any kids or whatever, but if his kid was
Yeah, he does.
wiping boogers on the Resolute desk
Well,
and
Steve Bannon
telling
said
him
something
to.
real negative about Trump this week, didn't he?
Oh,
Yeah, he just says he won't say anything negative.
Oh
about
no,
Donald
it
Trump.
was
Steve
Elon
Bannon.
Musk.
I mean, Elon
Steve
Musk.
Bannon was, yeah.
He was,
Oh, yeah,
he'll go
maybe.
after Elon Musk.
Yeah, okay.
Somewhat. Even now, he's kind of backed off that.
Right.
But
Right. But nobody, and Lawrence O'Donnell talked about this, nobody else except for Elon Musk would be able, or maybe Vladimir Putin, and this isn't what Lawrence said, but he specifically said, Elon Musk standing in there and his kid speaking to Trump the way he was speaking to him and wiping boogers and everything. It's like, or just being in the Oval Office, right?
At all.
That would never happen with anybody else.
Right.
well, no, the thing is, Donald Trump is a coward, okay? And he's afraid. That's why you have to stand up to him. No, these weak ass Republicans that just kiss up to him. He has no respect for these guys. But if you stand up to him like your governor, like Governor Pritzker, or those people like that, because we've heard them on the phone. And Governor Pritzker doesn't take any shit from him. And you've seen him with other people like Nancy Pelosi. They don't take any shit from him. He's afraid of them. And so, yeah, he's a coward. He's never going to stand up to the people that stand up to him.
No,
He's not a tough guy.
no,
He's a weak man.
weak, worthless man.
Yes,
Yeah.
and we see that the way he's, giving kowtowing to Putin, and he just wants to. I mean, seriously, Russia is on the ropes. Russia was, losing basically. I mean, their economy was down the tubes, and yet he could have taken advantage of that and actually, finished them off and supported Ukraine. But no, he's afraid of Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin is saying, you owe me. That's the message that Vladimir Putin put out there. He owes us. He owes me.
Right. So I think, I think this too, that having these like you said, Paul, just, this really does help, having these kind of conversations, because what it does is it gives us our own little, touchstone and reality check, to talk to people that it's like, okay, we're not going crazy. It's like, you guys are seeing this too. So that's why I'm always so grateful to be able to have my girl Anita to pick up the phone and call and check in with. And I'm so
Same here.
us are so grateful for you and your voice. We've been fans of yours, Paul, for such a long time. And so it is truly an honor for us to have you join us on episode 30 of
enjoyed
Blue
it. Thank you.
Politics.
Yes, I used to listen to you on Tom Hartman all the time.
Yes, we're big fans of yours. Yeah.
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 Do you still listen to Tom Hartman? I guess you do because you heard him the other day. You said you're
I listened to him a little bit, but not
as much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, but we will hope to do this again. And, you are welcome anytime at all.
Sure.
I'll
be in touch.
Okay. One thing too, February 28th, National Boycott.
Yes, that's right.
Don't buy anything. Don't buy anything. If you need anything, go shopping, get your gas on the 27th of February.
Got it.
Yeah.
You knew about that, right, Paul? Did you?
Yeah, I'd heard something about it.
Okay. Good. Then it's getting around.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. All right. Well,
thank you, Paul. Come back.
I sure will. Okay.
all right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.